All right. Well, everybody, welcome to Supercharge with me. My name's Russell Masters. I'm one of the co-founders here. I have a funny accent, worse than Andy's because I actually live in New Zealand. A little bit about me, I guess. I'm an adventure enthusiast. I'm commonly known in the team as the Wizard of Ops. I'm a dad and a husband. I've actually got 6 girls. I've been marketing for over 20 years, and I've been marketing for gyms since we started the business in 2017. I developed the gymnastics amplify marketing method, and I've been working directly with like over 60 plus gyms. There's a whole lot more gyms, but those are ones that I have worked directly with, really, like fine-tuning things like amplify marketing methods and, and different sort of case studies and things like that. And I created the Kids Activity Center online courses, now known as the Gymnastics Revenue Toolbox. Although I created it, I don't make it anymore because I have an amazing team of people like young Lindsay here, who actually really get into putting that together and running it and making it amazing. We've had some really, really good feedback from gym owners and dance school owners and swim school owners, how it's really helped them to increase their enrollments and revenue, which, at the end of the day, we do it for love, but we need to earn money. So what we're working on today is targeting your audience. So you've done strategy to make more money and get more enrollments. You have branding and messaging. And tomorrow it'll be about converting those interests into enrollments. And so today is oh, there we go, went backwards, is targeting your audience. So without further ado, there's probably other slides, but I never go through them because I always just get into this. And then Lindsay says, why did I even create all those extra slides for you, Russ? All right, first off, okay, so I know 2 people have been running ads. So I guess Sarah and Kaylee, I'm not sure if you guys have know when I say what we're talking about today is running ads in Meta / formerly known as Facebook, for Facebook platform and from the Instagram platform in the Facebook Ads Business Manager. Like, if you're not familiar with it, just let us know in the chat, and I can just give you a 5-second explanation about what the Business Manager is. But I will carry on until Lindsay interrupts me with that request, if that request exists. And that's really just how to get into Business Manager. Once you're in Facebook Business Manager, and if you're going to run ads, you really need to have the Facebook Business Manager, because it just offers you, you can't do what I'm showing you today in the, sort of the boosted posts aspect from your page. So in the Facebook Ads Manager, I'm just going to expand this out. So typically you'll have a toolbar on your left-hand side. I always collapse it. And you'll have your, the name of your company up here. You'll have, basically you'll have all of the tools. There's more tools that you can poke a stick at, but, really what we're just looking at here is the Ads Manager, and 90% of the time, that's pretty much all you'll probably be looking at as well. And then you've got your what we call the campaign window, which is where you run ads. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the 3 sections. For those of you who know, hey, you're going to hear it again. For those of you who don't, it'll just give you a little bit of context as to what we're talking about. So the Ads Manager is split into 3 groups. And one of the things that Facebook and Google and most of these platforms trying to do is they're trying to emulate sort of regular terminology, right? Not terminology that we're not familiar with. So if we've ever done any advertising or marketing like offline, we'll understand that we typically run an advertising campaign. So that's your primary group, right? Campaigns, advertising campaigns. And these are usually defined by what are we running, what are we wanting to run as a campaign. So it might be, like, for example, a call now ad or a summer camp enrollment parents' night out. So like these are campaigns, right? And within a campaign, you have an ad set, right? Which is basically, you flip it around, it's a set that has ads in it, right? So it's a way to group ads together. And so with that, within here, each ad set will have a number of ads, and the ad set is usually where the majority of the changes go that dictate who you're going to send those ads to, and where those people that you're going to send those ads to live, maybe what age they are, and all of those sort of demographic, psychographic sort of profiling aspects of it. And so, of course, if you're running a campaign, a summer camp, for example, you might have one ad set that's going to, parents with kids in this area, and one ad that's going to, maybe everybody in that area. A lot of times, you probably just get away with one ad set. And then within each ad set, there will be a number of ads. It might be one ad, it might be two ads. One thing I can tell you about this, we're not really going to get into the ads side of it or the structure, but unless you're spending $200 a day, I would highly recommend you don't put any more than 2, maybe 3 ads in any sort of ad set, because it just, Facebook kind of needs a couple to work with, but if you give it too many, it's just not going to perform. So if you ever, when you're doing this, create an ad campaign, create one ad set, and then go and put in the ads, just put 2 ads. And if you really, really want to, maybe put 3, but don't put any more than 3, and you find it will degrade your results a lot. And one thing I want to just want to say before we carry on, this is not a school. You guys are not kids. You don't have to put your hand up and be polite. If you have a question, just ask Lindsay. We'll stop and we'll address that. To be honest, we're going to go through a lot. So it's better probably to do that than it is to wait at the end. If you do have a question at the end, we will try and save 10 minutes to do a bit of a Q&A as well. But happy to stop and expand on something as we go through. All right. So before we proceed, I will create like an ad set, which is where we're going to talk about audiences. But I'm going to just give you this is what we're going to get to, right, and how we're going to get to it. And so actually, let's do probably this one. Have an address in it. No, it doesn't. Okay. So what we're trying to get to is, work out who we're going to target in this one here is just the United States, in what location, and we'll discuss things like age and genders, and whether we're going to use them and why we would and why we might not, and then all of the other fun things in here, what we'd actually need to select, what we can just leave, and really how to simplify navigating what looks to be a slightly overwhelming beast of a platform. And realistically, there are an absolute ton of things that you can do in here, but for the most part, unless you're spending a lot of money and you're also spending a lot of time in learning and so on and so forth, you probably don't need to look at 70% of it. So, but obviously you can't hide it from you to make it even simpler, and that's why they have that boosted ads option at the front end on your page, because it is simpler, right? But this, if you understand, the key things that you just kind of need to do, then it will make your life a whole lot easier. So, assuming we've created a campaign, and when we create a campaign, we have just about 6 options, right? And the idea with these options is it's an objective. It's like, what is this campaign supposed to do, right? And if you hover your mouse over each one of these, it will actually tell you, what is the objective of this campaign type? So awareness, see in the bottom right-hand side, show your ads to people who are most likely to remember them. And you'll see also that, there we go. You'll see also that good for brand awareness, video views, show location awareness, reach, traffic, send people to a destination. And again, you'll see that terminology is kind of self-explanatory to a degree. But what you're going to also see in here, I can't actually click over those. I think I need to highlight it. There we go. What you'll also see in here, and you'll see this throughout the Facebook ads platform, is these little information icons. And when you see these little information icons, you can hover over them and it will just give you a little bit more context to that, right? So calls, hover over that, get people who may be interested in your business to call you. Okay, well, that could be a really good objective, right? And then if you want to, and with every one of these sort of information icons that you can hover over and then call out to get a little bit more context as to what that means. If you really want to start diving down some rabbit holes, you can also then click on the Learn More, which will pop out a handy dandy little help section in your right-hand sidebar, which should load really, really quickly. For some reason, mine's not loading today, but that is Facebook and that is advertising platforms. Sometimes they just don't work as expected. And I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get rid of that. So I'm just going to reload the page. So the first step is we create a campaign. We decide on an objective. And to be honest, for most of you, I would consider probably a website for now, a website traffic, a traffic objective, just getting people to your website, right? Assuming you've got a website that's, has the ability to inform a parent as to what you do, and more importantly, how to get in touch with you, right? Whether it's a phone call, your address, your location, so they can see that it's geographically, relevant to where they live, and in an inquiry form so that they can actually reach out as well as a phone call. So once you've got your campaign set, you'll then go to create and like this ad set, right? And even though we're just talking really about targeting, I kind of wanted to show you how you get to this point. And if you've already done these, then that's good. You've already got here. And if you're really new to this, if you jump in our Revenue Toolbox course, we've literally got step-by-step videos on everything, how to get right through to this part here. But so you can see, right, campaign, ad set, and ad. So we're going to create an ad set. So let's call this, local parents in our community. Now, try and refrain from doing, ad set 1 or any default names that Facebook gives you, because while it might make sense now, when you go down the track 6 months later and you've got a bunch of them and you're looking in there in your ads manager and you're trying, what was that one about? What was that one about? It's very, very hard to sort of really understand, well, what was this campaign? What was this ad set? What was this ad? So just spending a couple of extra seconds to write a title that is slightly descriptive of what it actually is will help immensely. And you'll see that you'll see here, right? So we've got local parents in our community. We've got another one, call now ad for free trial, full audience example. Well, that tells us what it is. And this one is call now ad for free trial. Obviously, it doesn't have the full audience, so it doesn't have a full audience. And this one here is going to be local parents in our community. So that, again, if somebody else was looking at this, you go, oh, okay, this targeting is going to be obviously to local parents in our community of our gymnastics club. So, that it just gives it a little bit of context as to what it is. And then the campaign, right? Call now, kids activity center, traffic objective, right? So call now ad, we're using the traffic objective from the campaign. And it's for, I've just said kids activity center, but, it might be summer camp or it might be your business name or whatever. So once you are into your ad set, right, you've created it, it loads up the screen, you'll see your title in here, you can always change that, depending on what objective you chose. So, right, we chose traffic, there's awareness, conversion, app installs, location, right? So a few other objectives, but for this, we chose traffic. We actually have a couple of options down here. For the most part, unless you, and this is a good rule to understand, right? I've got all these options. What should I do? Well, unless you know what it is and why you need to change it, just don't change it, right? It's a nice, easy, simple rule. So unless you want to change it to WhatsApp or an app or Messenger or calls. Just don't change it, right? Just, I want to send people to my website. Coming down through here, Dynamic Creative. Again, Dynamic Creative is a very, very powerful tool that allows you to mix and match different headings and descriptions and images. Slightly more advanced, because even though you're going to mix them up, you do need a little bit more chops in the analytical world to understand how those mix and matches, how to actually analyze what's working. So again, just leave that one off. Optimization and delivery, right? Understand, for the traffic objective, Facebook is going to just set what it believes is the best default options for you. So optimization and delivery, how is Facebook going to optimize this ad set for the best delivery? So again, you've got some options here. Just leave it at link clicks, right? And again, if you put your mouse over this little information icon, it gives you a little bit more context. What do they mean by optimization for ad delivery? Well, choose the event you want to optimize for in your ad set. Your selection affects who sees your ads to get you the desired outcome. For example, if you choose to optimize for link clicks, we'll show your ad to the people most likely to click your link. I want traffic. I want people to click my link, right? Makes sense. Again, cost per result goal, wouldn't worry about that. I wouldn't worry about these more options. This, obviously, you are going to worry about, right? Daily budget. How much do you want to spend on these ads each day? Now, what I would look at when you're trying to work this out is you really want to be spending an absolute bare minimum of $10 a day. If you're doing anything less than $10 a day, and you're not running any other ads, right? Because you might run some other ads, but if your total advertising budget per day is less than $10, then maybe just use boosted posts and try and get that revenue number up to a point where your advertising budget can sustain at least $10. And if you're only spending $10, just do it on one ad set, right? One campaign. If you can't do $10, let's say you can only, I can only do $5. Well, think, how much can I spend in a month? Well, maybe I can spend $200, right? Well, then do it at $20 a day for 5 days and turn it off. And those 5 days might be sequential, Monday through Friday, Thursday through whatever 5 days after that is, Tuesday, whatever. Or it might be, just over the weekends or something like that. But don't try and run ads with your total campaign budget of being like, $5 a day in here, because it literally just won't really work. For the amount of effort that you put into it, you're better off putting that into just a boosted post. So daily budget, what do we recommend? Anything more than $10, $20 for a primary ad is really good. We usually recommend sort of starting about 25. We have one ad running at $20 a day, or maybe $15 a day, and then we'll have one or two other ads at $5 or $10. It might be some retargeting or something like that. So we'll leave that at $20. You have your schedule, and that's basically, it's just going to put, the start date, which is now. And you don't need to put an end date. But if you do want this ad to run and finish on a specific day, let's say we're doing a parents' night out on Friday, we might decide that we're going to end this on Friday, and we'll put the date in there. I put the 10th. I don't know. We'll put the date in there, and we can reset the start date. There we go. We can put the end date in there, and that means that we don't have to think about coming in to turn it off. It'll just automatically turn off. And now we get into the fun stuff. So before I get into the fun stuff with the audience, are there any questions, or can I carry on? I'll have a little sip of coffee while I wait.
I don't see any questions yet.
All right, cool. Let's get into what we all came here wanting to learn today, which is the targeting. So this audience section, we're going to focus on creating a new audience, and I will show you how to save it so that we can also then use a saved audience. And once you've created, it does take a little bit time to create an audience. And so once you've created an audience, if you go to make another campaign or another ad set, you don't want to have to do it from scratch every time. And so you can, you can then save the audience, which means that you can then, reuse the audience in another ad, and it will save all of our, all of the parameters that we put in here, so you don't have to do it manually. So the first thing we're going to do down here is we need to think about our location. So by default, it will give you the entire country, and that obviously doesn't make sense because United States is big. So we want to put in the location of our gym. So let's say my gymnasium, my gymnastics club is 72 West Bell Road. Just happens to be the West Bell Road, surprise. Just so happens to be the address of our office, main office. And now you can see that instead of targeting the entire United States, it's got this little circle around, it's got a little drop pin with a check mark in it, which is the center of that radius, which is 16772 West Bell Road, Surprise, Arizona. And that's where Rusty's Gymnastics Club is. And the circle around it is the radius around the gym in which I want to target. So if somebody lives in Paradise Valley, Avondale, they won't see these ads. In fact, if somebody lives in Peoria, they won't see these ads, right? Because they're outside of this radius. Now that we've got that, before we go into, and there's quite a lot you can do, you can get very, very granular in here. We have to look at this here at the top here, right? People living in or recently in this location. Now, we typically use this to start with by default. And when I say to start with when you're doing ads, the success of ads comes from experimentation and updates, right? If you create a campaign, create an ad set, find the right audience, get the right targeting, put an ad in, start spending $10 a day or $15 a day or $20 a day in budget, and it works straight out of the gate, take that win. It doesn't happen like that, right? Advertising, sometimes it takes a few iterations to find that right ad that works, that right audience that works, maybe some changes to your website. Sometimes it can work really, really well, and then it will just stop working. And so it's one of those things, you can't just put an ad up and hope that it will work. And if it does work, that'll just carry on working. So you do need to make changes to ads. We use this, people living in or recently in this location. Now, understand that this is when people put their address on their Facebook or their Facebook profile and their Instagram profile, that address around that's what's going to dictate the living in. The recently in is more their sort of geolocating, right? So if I might have an address of 12th floor away, but I'm also, I was also like today recently in 37 Borman Road, right? So I was in both locations. And why this matters is that, not everybody that lives near what do we have, 16772 West Bell Road has their address right. So we also want to maybe find people that are recently in this location. We can, if we want to, test just people living in this location, people whose home is within the selected area. But to start with, I would use this first one here. And really, if you're just not getting the results, maybe you're getting phone calls from people like way outside your location, which which could happen because they might be recently in this location, but they actually might live far away. Then, if you're getting a lot of calls from people who are outside of the area, then you can come in and maybe try just people living in this location. The reason we try to be a bit broader is that imagine our audience, our total potential audience in our community is this big. Well, we don't want to restrict it and just try and find, these people in there. We also don't want to necessarily try and find everybody in there, but we want to try and, it's okay to sort of, if our audience is this big, to maybe target an audience that's just slightly bigger, to try and get everybody. Because at the end of the day, when you show your ad, somebody who's not interested in a gymnastics club probably isn't going to click it. And if they do, it's not going to be the end of the world. But if you don't show it to everybody in your audience, in your community, and there's a family with a couple of, great kids that really want to do gymnastics, ninja or tumbling or something like that, and they don't see your ad, then they miss out. So we start off a little bit broader and then maybe narrow in a little bit. So we've got this address here, and you'll see that we've got this plus 10 miles. So that's the radius, and we can control that. You can get as small as 1 mile. And so if I zoom out, right, so that's pretty small. And you can do as big as 50 miles, which, for most people, that would probably be too much. Chance of somebody driving 50 miles to the gym is probably very slim. So, 10-mile radius is often quite good, but it really depends on your location, right? If you're in a very densely populated suburban location in a city like Los Angeles, New York, something like that, you'll probably find like it's a very small radius. If you're in a rural location where people will drive a little bit further, it's probably a bigger radius. So really just think about that. And the best way to understand it is have a look in, your Jackrabbit or your iClass Pro, or just think about your customers. Think, where do they come from? Like, what suburbs do they live in? What, how far does Jane drive to bring, I know she drives ages to bring her kids in. Like, is that normal? Right? And then you can start looking at what that radius is. Now, sometimes radiuses are not ideal, right? So let's say for this, let's assume that this is quite a built-up area, and we go 6 miles. But we also know that people from Peoria also come to our gym. So, but we don't really want to, expand it out to 12 miles. So you've got this option down here to drop pin, and again, little context, drop a pin anywhere on the map. So I can click this, and when I click it, I now have this little icon, and I can come down to Peoria and I can drop it, boom, right on there. And then I could bring it down to 1 mile. And that's the wrong one. Let's do the right one. Let's put that back up to 7 miles. So that Peoria, and I can drop it down to 1 mile. And so what you'll see is I've got my main gym radius location, but also want to target people just in there. And this is really helpful if it's, hey, I know that there's people within this particular suburb that, that come to our gym. And why would you want to do that? Well, especially if you've got people recently in this location, let's say it's a really built up commercial neighborhood, right? Maybe it's a lot of shops, a lot of retail traffic, like foot traffic and so on and so forth. But there is a pocket of residential. You drop it on that pocket of residential, and you're not targeting all of those sort of commercial areas and all of the people that are in there that are likely not going to be in your community. The other thing you can do is, so we've put in a single address, and it's created a radius. We've dropped a pin to highlight, a specific area. And now we're targeting, those 2 places. The other thing you can do is you can also type in zip codes. So I'm actually going to type in the, 853. So I'll type in the zip code of 16772 West Bell Road. 85374, I think. Let's try that. There we go. And I'm actually going to turn this off for now. There we go. Now you'll see that when I drop the zip code in, and I'm going to turn off this pen as well, just so it will zoom in. When I drop the zip code in, it's very precise, right? It's going to pick up literally that zip code, and it's and it's very, block by block. And then I can add in some other zip codes. So let's add in 85379. And you can see that I can start, start building it out by just targeting certain zip codes. So I might say, really want to target that, really want to target that. Maybe I don't want to target, I was going to say don't want to target Youngtown because it's a retirement community. That would actually be kind of funny. But let's say we don't want to target one place because it's, maybe the average age range of the people in that community is, it's a lot of, retirees and things like that. So we might not want to target that area and spend that money on people in that area. So by targeting zip codes, becomes really, really powerful. And this, if you don't know, if you want more information on the zip codes in various neighborhoods around your in your community, which you probably know anyway, there are places you can go online and get some sort of demographic information about the people that live in that area, what the mean income is, and what the mean age ranges are, and so on and so forth. But as you can see, that starts to give us some really good granular approaches to where are these people in our community that we want to target. Andy very often talks about, hey, being a household name in your community within a 10-mile radius of your gym, right? And that's exactly right. What this gives you is to be able to take that statement within 10 miles of your gym, plus that area there, but not that area there, and just a little bit over here, right? So it really allows you to get quite detailed on it. And you can mix and match these. So if I wanted to go back to 6, I don't know, let's go 16 West Bell Road. Bell Road. We'll just do Walmart and Phoenix, that'll do. So you can go you can drop, mix and match, you've got a radius here, you've got some zip codes here, and then we might decide that we want to, drop a pin on Peoria as well. And so you can get you can mix and match these and get very, very precise in your location targeting. And to be honest, this is the most important thing you need to get right when you're spending money on ads, because there's no point wasting ad spend on people who are not in your, who are not in your, not in the area of your community that are likely to drive to your gym or likely to enroll their kids in your gym. And if you get this right, even if you don't put granular targeting, and we're going to like in terms of interest and things like that, we'll talk about this in a sec, this will still work, right? If you have the best targeting, like, I know my, parents and their age between this, they're female, and they've, got kids between the ages of X and Y, but your targeting is off, it's just not going to work. So this is the most important aspect of that. Before I move on to the next section, which is age and genders, and then interest, does anybody have any questions on how to wield this part of it? Okay, cool. All right, so age and gender. My recommendation to start off with, just leave this open. And there's a reason for that. You'll be like, what? I want females in there, and I want age ranges between 28 and 50. Facebook knows your audience, right? You've got a Facebook page, it knows who visits your Facebook page, it's profiled those people. If you've got a website and you've got a Facebook pixel on there, it knows who's visited your website, it profiles those. You run just an open age group to start with. You'll probably find that if you look down at the breakdowns to the age of people that it's targeting, it's probably going to be 28 to 50. The reason why I say to start with, don't specify the ages, is that every layer of targeting that you put in an ad set creates a slightly higher cost to the cost of your advertising. What do I mean by that? There's Facebook charges by what they call a CPM, right? It's cost per impression, cost per 1,000 impressions, not views, but impressions, number of time your ad is impressed on Facebook, right? And that cost is not a fixed cost, it's a variable cost. So the easiest way to explain it, if I didn't put any targeting in at all, and I just said United States, shout out to anybody, my CPM is probably going to be quite low. Maybe it might be $10 or $15. If I get really, really strict with my targeting, okay, I need people in this area here, and 30 to 50-year-olds and females who like to go to the gym and drink coffee, my CPM is probably going to double, right? And it's okay to double, because what we're doing is we're getting a better result for it. But to start off with, I would suggest testing like the targeting. You can't just go United States and hope it'll work, right? That's just not going to work. There are some aspects of the of this ad set setup of the audience targeting that you have to do, right? And that main one is the location targeting. But if you leave the age just like that for now, and leave the genders just like that for now, I mean, heck, there's, I'm a dad. I enrolled my kids in, swim and dance and things like that when they were younger. Just leave those for now. You can always add them in later. And if you do add them in, think about the ages, potential ages of your parents, and go so like just younger and just older, right? So if you're, if the average parent in your gym is, say, between 28 and 40 years old, maybe to 26 to 50, right? Just sort of broaden that net just to round that a little bit. Genders, we typically leave both in there. Again, you'll find if you look at the data, that'll be heavily skewed, very heavily skewed to females, more than likely, depending on who visits your website and who visits your Facebook page. And then we get into detailed targeting, right? So this is how to define your audience by including or excluding demographics, interests, and behaviors. I'm going to click into here. So what do we mean by this, right? If we have a look at this here, you'll see targeting by demographics, interests, and behaviors. You'll see these different interests, right? Summer camp, Girl Scouts, Bye Bye Baby.
Is that
right? My Siri thought I was talking to her. Private school, American youth football, and then you'll see some demographics or behaviors demographics as well. And there's a whole bunch of things in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this out, but more importantly, I'm going to show you how to build it out. And how to create your own one. Now, in our revenue toolbox, we have this exact audience that we use, and this is an audience that we use, right? We're not giving you a cut down, watered down version that will sort of kind of work. No, this is exactly what we use. So I'm going to show you how to build this and like the mechanics behind how you would find those interests and how you would find the demographics and behaviors. And yes, you can copy our one; it's going to work more than likely. But means you can also sort of create your own ones and do some testing on that. All right. So in here, when you click into this, right, no results found, right? So what we need to do is we can either start typing something in or we can browse. And if you can browse and sort of go down a bit of a rabbit hole and come down and have a look at some things here, but it will take you an absolute time to try and search everything, because there's a lot of interests in here. So what I actually recommend, and this is the way that we build our audiences out, is start with a demographic, right? And this demographic that I want to start with, if you type in parents, you'll see, parents all, not really, because, I'm a parent, I got kids as old as 30, so that's not really the one. And you'll see these age groups, right? So depending on either A, the age range of kids in your gym, or B, the age range of kids in the program that you're promoting within the campaign that you're running. Maybe it's a summer camp or a specific program or a specific rec class or ninja class and so on and so forth. Choose the parent group or parent groups that are that make sense to this campaign that you're running. So let's say we're not doing tots. Maybe we're just doing a couple of programs that are going to target parents with kids between the ages of, let's say, 6 and 12, right? So we click on this first one, And then what you can do, instead of typing parents again, you can actually click on this little breadcrumb icon at the top here. And why I do that is because, especially if you're selecting a few of them, you can then go through and just literally just check them off. So we did 6 to 8, so let's do 9 to 12 as well. Now, in a perfect world, this would be all you'd need to do, right? Hey, I want to target parents with early school age children 6 to 8 and parents with preteens 9 to 12. So yeah, fine. I'll sort it. And that would be easy, right? Now, the problem is that this is not everybody in your community. It's going to be some, could be a lot. It can be worth testing. Just try it out just with this. But what I'm going to show you is, there's probably a lot more that will fit into this. And our testing over the years, we spent millions of dollars in advertising for gymnastics clubs and swim schools, etc. Our testing has shown that this on its own typically doesn't work. Like, it works, but only to a certain degree, because there are so many more people. If we hover over this, right, it is, the descriptions, people who are likely to be parents with early school age children. So as I said, it's not everybody, right? When we come down in here now, instead of clicking browse, right, we could start searching for, okay, well, what sort of things would, a parent who's got a child anywhere between the age of 6 and 12, what would they be interested in, right? But you can make this a little bit easier because they have this suggestions option. And the suggestions option is kind of powerful because what it does is it looks at what you've already got and then gives you suggestions based on that. And then as we build this out, those suggestions will change and reflect what you've got up there. So it's the first suggestions that it's going to talk about is, parents with preschoolers by other parents, right? So we've already decided we don't want to use those. So if we come down here, there's not a lot, right? But maybe there's, toys, kids with film, engaged shoppers, maybe in a relationship. So there's not really a lot. Maybe a stay-at-home parent, that could be one. So there's not really a lot in here yet. So what we have to do is we have to really think about, well, what types of things would a parent who has a child between these age ranges be interested in? And here's the little gold nugget, and nobody else would be, right? So a parent with children between these age ranges, they might be interested in fitness, right? Going to the gym. Yeah. But so would people who don't have kids. So we have to think about things that they would be interested in, but somebody who doesn't have kids wouldn't be interested in. And so if we have a look back at our audience example that I had over here, you can see, and this set of interests here is based on parents with kids all the way from 0 up to kind of like 17, right? So you see everything from Pampers to, American Girl, American Youth Football, right? So it's quite a wide range of interest. So if we come back in here and we say, okay, well, what would a parent with a child between the age of 6 and 8 and 9 to 12 years? So maybe we could say Gap Kids. I think there's a Gap Kids, Gap Clothing, Gap Kids, maybe not. No, let's say Scouts, just for ease. Cub Scout. So let's say Cub Scout, right? We can put that in there, and what we'll see is that this estimated audience size is going to start increasing. So if I take that out, right, so that's the parents and Cub Scout. Well, let's use that one as well. And then when I click on suggestions, oh, look at that. Oh, Girl Scouts of the USA, right? Now it's starting to give us some things that relate to that, but then you've also got, I saw a couple of other ones in here. Kindergarten, primary and secondary education, right? That could be something to look at. Girl guiding, and you're going to see these numbers are probably going to increase again. And sometimes you'll get to a point where these numbers won't increase a ton. And that means, you've probably sort of found everything. But as you start putting interest in, these suggestions will start to populate and give you more ideas. And just to give you an idea, let's put something in. Let's assume that we were targeting people with younger kids, and let's say we're looking at Johnson and Johnson, right? Johnson and Johnson. Now, there's a couple of options here, and there's the reason I chose this one, right? So the first thing you do is you'd click on Johnson and Johnson. That's great, but if you look over on the right here, you'll see it actually says employers. So it's really important just to look at the classification of this interest and pick the right one. So employers is basically people who are, have listed their employer as Johnson and Johnson in their Facebook profiles. So not really the right audience. Whereas, Johnson and Johnson toiletries, which is an interest, so people who expressed an interest in or like pages related to Johnson and Johnson toiletries. So, and it's not just on Facebook and not just on Instagram, it's also visiting their website, right? Because Facebook has a pixel, tracks people that visit the websites, people. So it's really basically people who have an interest in that brand. So we could add that. Let's see. And now, our estimated audience size has jumped from sort of 30,000 to 52,000. Now, when we talked about the ages, right, that can come into play. If I reduce those ages down, then again, this number is probably going to come down as well. Now, I know that this area is a fairly well-populated area, so that audience doesn't seem to be too outrageous to me. I've put in Johnson and Johnson, so let's look at the suggestions again. So we've got Johnson's Baby toiletries, Huggies, Pampers, right? So it starts populating us with more suggestions, and not just on the last one, right? Because we've got Girl Scouts of USA, Scouting, Cub Scout, Scout Leader. So the more you put in here, American Girl, the more you put in here, the more the more diverse the suggestions are going to be, because it's really aggregating all of these things and giving you suggestions. So I've put an American Girl, which is toys. We'll probably find some toy options. Look at that: Barbie, Disney, diaper apparel, Disney princess, doll toy, My Little Ponies. Let's put in that. And you think about if your main audience is mums with girls, then you probably want to be doing things like My Little Pony, Girl Guiding, American Girl. If you're trying to find parents for boys and girls, maybe in a ninja program, or just boys in a boys program, then think about the interests that are My Little Pony. Probably not a lot of boys are playing with My Little Ponies. Some might be. But the broader context is probably not. American Girl, probably not, but maybe there's a boys clothing brand that parents would be interested in, and that it just helps to dictate. Now, once you've got this, there is this option down here, reach. It says account center accounts. Basically just means people beyond your detailed targeting selections when it's likely to improve performance. I would suggest don't turn this on to start with. Let me turn that on, I'll show you why. Because that takes it from 66,000 to 1.2 million. And I'm thinking like that's probably a little bit much, right? And what it does to some degree is it takes into consideration these interests, but then finds all sorts of other people that are like that. Because we're really after parents and we're not after people that are not parents, then I would actually leave that off. And the last thing you want to do is you want to save this audience, right? And you want to give this a name that sort of is quite descriptive as to what you're wanting to do. So, parents, kids aged, what do we say, 6 to 12, and its interests, right? And if you had an age range on there, you might add that, but I can then click and save that. And now next time I want to do a saved audience, there it is there, kids aged 6 to 12, and I can click on that and it will just populate that audience until you can reuse it. Now, the last thing I'll say is that you can test out not having an audience at all. If you do that, then put the age in and say people in this location who are aged between maybe 28 and 48, maybe even go older, right? Some grandparents who look at it. We have seen success from people in the older age range must be recommending their signing up with their grandkids. But let's say 26 to 48 or 26 to 50, find that age range, and then don't put any targeting in there and let Facebook do the work. Now, if you're going to do that spending a minimum of $20 a day. If you're not spending $20 a day, don't do that, because Facebook needs a little bit of money to try and sort of figure it out. But remember that Facebook knows who visits your page, who likes your page, who comments on your page, who shares your page, both Instagram and Facebook. If you've got a pixel, if you haven't put a pixel on your site, get one done. Then it also knows who's visiting your website, how much time they're spending, who's clicking your click to call buttons, who's filling out your forms, who's spending a lot of time and who's not spending a lot of time. It uses all that information to aggregate. So when you say, hey, Facebook, find people in this area between this age range and use my pixel, to understand who they are, it'll probably do quite a good job. And you can, test both of them, right? Have some interests and test out broad. Sometimes you have to run broad. That's what we call broad, right? No targeting. And it might work really, really well. And then, 2 months later, it stops working. And so you can switch it and change it to an interest targeting. So do test both of those. Once you've done that, just click publish, and and then it will take you through to the ad, and you can build out the ad. So I did say we stay on for about 10 minutes for Q&A. We're almost top of the hour, but I'm absolutely happy to stay on for 10 minutes and do some Q&A anyways. Does anybody have any questions on that?
And y'all feel free to unmute yourself if you want to say your question out loud. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, let's. Do you have any?
Maria, do you have a question?
Yeah. If we, as we start working with this again, if we have any questions, what would be the best place? Like, could we reach out to you guys, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, you in our Facebook group?
Yes. Is that the best place?
Yeah, 100%. And if you want some more, like, sort of how-to guides, then I can't stress enough how valuable the revenue toolbox could be for you, if you haven't already subscribed to that, because it literally goes through. I mean, we've got, like, this is one of the videos in there about how to create the audience, but how to create the ads, how to create the campaigns, how to set up a pixel, how to set up a pixel on your website, and all of that good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just got a general question, then yeah, definitely use the group, because other people might have the same question, but we're too shy to ask or something, or it just might prompt. It just helps to prompt good good sort of collaborative discussion.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. All right. Well, if we have no other questions, I will let everybody carry on with their day.
Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you, Russell, for sharing that information.
No worries.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.